La Crosse Local is proud to be a sponsor of the La Crosse Winter Roots Festival, brought to you by Ultra Federal Credit Union. We invite you to celebrate music, cuisine, artists, makers, brewers, and distillers in the new La Crosse Center Riverside Ballroom. Musical entertainment includes Dan Sobronic, Reed Grimm, Tug, The Remainders, Greg Hall and the Wrecking Ball, and the Trippin' Billies, the nation's most renowned Dave Matthews tribute band. La Crosse Winter Roots Festival is presented by the La Crosse Center, La Crosse Local, and with special thanks to The Remainders.
I'm going home. Hey, I'm going home.
Find out more information and how to get tickets at lacrosselocal.com. On this episode, we chat with Andy Hughes of Broken Wrist Records, an entity aiming to promote, book, and manage creative endeavors in a collaborative way. We talk about Tommy Prine, the Three Rivers Songwriters Summit, what's next for Broken Wrist Records, and where people can find out more. You can find more conversations, food reviews, live music, and events on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is La Crosse Local.
I just been noticing Broken Wrist Records lately on Facebook with different events and promotions and basically getting back to the live show. What is the origin story of this organization?
So it's myself and my good friend Stacy Hansen, and we've both been, doing this music scene. We've been both a part of the La Crosse music scene for 20 years. Out there trying to get our different bands. Stacy was been the band leader of a band called Red Sky Warning, a band called Merry Weathers. I've done my thing with Tug for a long time, and I do my solo stuff. He and I have been playing shows and writing songs together for a while, and it just sort of increased over the pandemic when we couldn't play. So actually right before the pandemic, February 2020, we had a cabin in Hatfield, Wisconsin, and we went up there with just the idea of like working on each other's songs, having that. It's really cool, I guess, as a songwriter, someone who's trying to write songs, because it's like you get so into your own ideas, having someone else who, like for me, Stacy, I just so respect him as a songwriter. I think he's one of the best songwriters I've heard, let alone in this area. So the idea was just to listen to each other's songs and see if we could help, maybe I was thinking of maybe recording another solo or Andy Hughes thing. And I know he had some songs sort of left over from when Merry Weathers ended. And in turn, it turned into, we wrote these two songs that weekend that were different for both of us, reliant on harmonies and stuff. And so out of that was this idea of a collaboration. And so that's really the origin story of the Broken Wrist Records is collaboration. It's feeling like we're constantly in competition, as musicians with art. It's such a weird feeling. I really want to see people succeed. There's so many talented people in this town, Cheech, and I could go on, but you feel like you're in competition. You're trying to compete to get people to shows, and you're, the whole algorithm, the Spotify playlists. And the idea was like, there's this big stream out there, but we don't feel like we have access to it sometimes. So maybe if we grouped together multiple creative people, songwriters. So that was really the main idea. And then it sort of sat a little bit dormant as the pandemic sort of grew on, and recently got back into it. And we want to put out music together. We want to write music together. And at the same time, started thinking about throwing shows. So the promotion thing and the shows were really just something that happened. Stacy does a thing every year before Thanksgiving. And so he had that date at Leon Leona's, and we just started talking about shows. And so a couple shows popped up. So we've hit the ground running now, and we feel like we are, again, collaborative space where we can promote artists, shows. If the time comes to put out music or help people put out music, then we'll do that as well. So
Yeah, just checking out your site from, promoting to booking to managing bands in the area. You also have the Three Rivers Songwriters Summit. How did that project start? Is that kind of to continue that collaborative songwriting component?
Yeah. And for the lineup there, I'm just amazed that almost everybody said yes. There was a couple of people that we wanted to include that have other shows, but almost everybody we reached out to said yes. And it's, for me, it's a lot of people I look up to: John Smith, Dan Sobronic, Eddie Allen, guys that have been doing what Stacy and I are trying to do in this region for a long time. And one of the things that we had started to do with our other buddy, Brian Bethke, before the pandemic was to do what we called these Nashville North songwriter nights. I go down to Nashville as much as I can. And if you go down there as a songwriter, what you'll find is that almost all of the shows are in the round style. And it's, so there's like 12, 15, 20 sometimes writers, and they're throwing them up there 3-4 at a time, round robin, song. It's an incredible way to sort of see songs and songwriters. And I know a few people do it around here, and we had started doing it, but what I had never seen is someone do the entire night like that. So instead of, what I've seen around here, and I know like Tim does musical chairs and it's awesome. I've been a part of that. We wanted to see if we could get enough writers where we could have 3 or 4 and multiple rounds. And so that was the idea, and everybody said yes. So we're incredibly excited. And, then having folks like the Iowans and Anima kind of join who are a group, but again, those harmonies, that's really something that Stacy and I are trying to focus on with our writing. So we're drawn to people that already do that well. So
also with, you trying to develop, I guess, book bands with Broken Wrist Records, you have Tommy Prine coming up. What's the connection there with him as a musician? I know you're a big fan of his father, but how did that all come about?
I'm just a huge John Prine fan. I'm to the point where I'm a pretty big nerd. Little by little over the years, I've reached out to his record label. If people don't know, John Prine's one of the people who in the 80s, started his own record label. And that's something, I don't know if it's talked about a lot, but Oh Boy Records is completely John Prine, and it's his family now. Now it's run by his wife and his stepson. So I'd reached out over the years and stuff like that, just as a big Prine fan, just always, one of the things about booking and promoting and stuff. And I'm sure, you send emails to people you probably don't have any business sending emails to, but they were always really gracious and always wrote back. That's something too I love about that, and that's what I want to try to do is that no matter how big or small, somebody reaches out to your entity, responding. So they always did, and so we were talking about really trying to bring somebody in for this Thanksgiving Eve show, and I said, well, I noticed that John Prine's son Tommy has recently been out touring. And he's been doing tour packages in the South with a lot of the Oh Boy Records people, Arlo McKinley. And I said, let's see if there's any chance that, we could get him. There was one time with Terry Sobronic, I remember a couple of years ago at Leo and Leona's sitting up there and being like, man, how cool would it be if we get John Prine, Leo and Leona's, and so it was this, I wrote to Oh Boy Records. I said, we're looking at this date. We're interested in Tommy. And I just sent it to the general Oh Boy Records. And, the next week I had an email from his agent, and we've been just going back and forth now. And we were able to get Tommy booked, and he's really excited. He's putting out a record of his own, like his uncle Billy Prine's out there doing a tour right now of John's songs. And that's really cool. And I think Tommy's trying to carve his own place. I can't imagine what it would be like to step into the family business when your dad is a legend. But how cool and how I'm really stoked to sort of see what he does, and we were really excited that they wrote back, and we weren't able to get it for the date that we wanted, Thanksgiving Eve, but we were able to get a date that we could all agree on, and so we just kept it really simple. So it's going to be Tommy playing solo acoustic, and then Stacy and I both doing opening sets.
Well, I mean, that show seems like a good start for your company. So what's next for Broken Wrist Records? What's coming down the line, or what do you hope you'll be able to do in the next year or two?
Stacy and I are recording music. And so we've got a band that it's just in the infancy stage. So we're doing that. And that's going to be a focus for us and putting that out through our Broken Wrist Records. And then it looks like we're interested now in doing some more shows. So we've got some people that we've got our eyes on, looking into sort of the, alternative indie folk scene. There's a lot of people out there that we would love to bring through this area. We have such a unique place, as like it's 4.5 hours from Chicago, we're 3 hours from Minneapolis, we're 2 hours from Madison. So we have all these people that are, now that tours are opening back up, we do have a really great area. If there's a break on somebody's tour, where they come to this area. And I think, people people get surprised because there's so much appreciation for music, original music in the La Crosse area, that we can have those artists come in when they're in between Madison and Minneapolis, and we can put them at Leo and the owners of the Trempealeau Hotel, and people come out and really support and really love live original music. So that's what we're trying to capitalize on that. So we're looking at a couple March and spring shows. So I think the winter months will be spent writing and recording some music. But yeah, we're looking forward to doing more shows and trying to bring in some artists that maybe haven't ever been to this area. But I know from, looking out on social media and people I know that listen to similar music, I know that there's people that aren't necessarily making stops in La Crosse, but are starting to get close. And I think that there's a market for that. And so we want to try to bring those, there's definitely right now there's a singer-songwriter folk kind of feel to it, but we want to go into everywhere. Obviously Tug is a reggae rock ska. Merryweathers is sort of a harder sort of rock and roll band. We've got other friends in the area that do things like hip hop. So I think one of the other things that we've decided is that we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves into any genre. And so for now, it's just we want to help ourselves, help our friends make some music. And the thought is that if we collaborate enough and have that sort of shared, because we're all trying to do the same thing, and like I said, I want my friends to be successful, and I think that they want us to be successful. So, an army of some of us versus an army of one. I think that's how it feels when you're out there booking yourself and managing yourself. I've done it for 20 years. You just feel like an army of one. You're just sending messages and hyping yourself up and writing bios and booking shows. It can get overwhelming, and sort of like you get 90% of your emails are unresponded to. It just helps to sort of like collaborate with people and be like, this is stressful or this is overwhelming, so maybe we'll work on this together. If I'm emailing somebody about a show and I can bring up a friend that matches better, let's do that.
So you kind of referenced it, Tug, the various bands. Actually, Tug will be playing at a festival that we're kind of promoting, La Crosse Winter Roots Fest, at the beginning of the year. Glad to have you. But what's it been like getting back into playing live shows?
I can't even put it into words. Since May, this is just me personally, it's almost hard to talk about how amazing it's been. Yeah, I mean, Tug started out really strong in the spring, summer. And I've just, we get to play really cool shows, Moon Tunes and Reggae Fests and all this stuff. There was just a different energy. There's a different energy between us as a band. There's a different energy between the people. You could just see it on all of our faces. You could feel it. This like what was really missed with live music. I mean, we all said it. We were all saying like, oh, we want concerts back. But then when we were starting to do it, it was just incredible. There were songs over the years. Tug's been together a long time. We have lots of songs, and there's certain songs, you're like, oh, this song again. And then, we got to this spring, and it was like, I love this song. It was, you don't know what you have until it's ripped from you. And so I think artists were sensitive and emotional because we put our songs and emotions into songs. And honestly, up and through, for me, I mean, even this last month has been incredibly busy. We've had this great last push of weather, so been doing as many outdoor shows as I can. And it's just been awesome. I'm riding it until some of the snow starts flying, and then we'll see what we do.
So if people want to follow along with Broken Wrist Records, what's the best avenue for them to go to?
So we're on, we have our website now, brokenwristrecords.com, and then we're on Facebook. We're going to develop out some other sites. Instagram is going to be one for sure. And then there's just some other, some other new stuff that we'll get to. But for now, probably the website and Facebook and the Instagram will be rolling out here. So that's probably the best way.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.